Well, it's been an emotional roller coaster, but we're not getting off just yet. Strap yourselves in for one more ride as England take on Italy in the final of the Euros, live from Wembley here on ITV tomorrow night from 6:30. Now the latest ITV News.
Fever pitch. This time tomorrow, England could be the new European champions. In less than 24 hours, they kick off in the final against Italy, proud of what they've achieved, but wanting more.
We know how much the game means for us as players, but also for the nation.
Meanwhile, England fans are queuing up to show their support, and they're ready to party.
We've got 3 screens set up, we've got kegs galore. Also, it's going to be a pretty big day. We're ready.
Also, the government considers letting NHS staff skip self-isolating and making vaccination mandatory before visiting the pub. And
Hurst goes forward, he might make it 3. He has!
If you ever wondered what it was like to be there in '66, we know some fans who can tell you.
Absolutely nail-biting. Yes, absolutely nail-biting. And I hope this next one will be equally exciting.
This is ITV News with Andrea Byrne.
Good evening. On the eve of the biggest day in English football in more than half a century, the nation's voices are uniting behind their team. Tonight, the Queen led the messages of support for the players, praising their spirit, commitment and pride. The Prime Minister said they've lifted the country's spirits and can lift the trophy too. Meanwhile, the players themselves have spoken about how much the huge outpouring of fan support has meant to them and promised to take on tomorrow's challenge with courage. Here's our sports editor, Steve Scott.
They've done their best to shield themselves from the nation's growing excitement.
Oh, you're all the best.
But as they left their training camp earlier today, it was impossible to ignore. Filmed by the players themselves, a line of well-wishers that went on and on and on. There was a similar reception for the squad when they arrived in London. If they were in any doubt about how much this means up and down the country, they won't be now.
To see the fans on the street like they have been and see the reception that we've had as we've pulled into the hotel here and as we was leaving St George's Park is, just showing us how big an occasion it is.
The Queen has written to Gareth Southgate. 55 years ago, I was fortunate to present the World Cup to Bobby Moore. I want to send my good wishes for tomorrow, with the hope that history will record not only your success, but also the spirit, commitment and pride with which you have conducted yourselves. It is a humble and happy squad. It contains experienced leaders, but is also one of the youngest in the tournament. Bukayo Saka's performances so far have been a revelation. He might still be just a teenager, but he knows what it will take to come out on top tomorrow.
I think it's courage. We know how much the game means for us as players, but also for the nation. And yeah, it can make people nervous, but I think, courage is the most important thing because everyone in our team is amazing, has so much quality, and if they show the courage when they play and show their qualities, we'll have a big chance of winning.
Italy arrived at their eve of match camp at lunchtime today, bringing with them a staggering run of form, unbeaten in 33 matches.
We are ready, we are looking forward to play tomorrow, but we have to be relaxed and use all our energy just in the field.
The stage is dressed, now we await the final act. Unscripted drama that will no doubt change some lives forever. Both teams have impressed on their way to the final, but of course England's biggest advantage tomorrow is they're playing at home in front of 65,000 largely English supporters. It is an opportunity almost all of them will never have again. Steve Scott, ITV News, Wembley.
With an historic victory within touching distance, an optimistic nation looks ready for a good time tomorrow night. The beers are in, the fridges are full, and the hospitality sector is preparing for its best day since the pandemic began. Dan Rivers reports on the preparations for what is going to be one heck of a party.
Is it coming on? It's coming on! It's coming on!
In Billericay today, the party was already getting started before the biggest match England's faced in 55 years. Final preparations are underway, and among this stag do anyway, confidence seems high.
Are you more nervous for England tomorrow or marrying the missus next Friday?
Good question.
Good question.
Man, the missus next Friday.
Come on, England!
At the other end of the country on Tyneside, Dougie's Tavern is braced for the busiest night of the year after what has been an extremely challenging 12 months.
It's give the staff more hours, more income, and everybody's got a little kick in their step and they're happy. It's brilliant.
In County Durham, the surge in patriotism has reinvigorated this flag manufacturer, which had been closed for 6 months.
We've seen a massive demand. Far more than usual. I think that people just need something to celebrate. Even people that don't like football are putting banners and bunting and flags outside the house, and they're behind their country.
This was the scene on the South Bank in central London for the semi-final on Wednesday. Tomorrow they're hoping for an even bigger celebration.
It's going to be a pretty big day. It's a lot of anticipation. We sold out all the tickets in about 10 minutes time. We've got 3 screens set up. We've got kegs galore. Also, it's going to be a pretty big day. We're ready.
England superfan Tom Salmon only found out he had a ticket for the final yesterday. Now he's planning his build-up to a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
It's going to be nervous. I'm going to make sure I go to the cafe tomorrow morning, have a big breakfast, hopefully settle some nerves. Meet up with my friends, and hopefully we can chat about other things rather than football, just take our minds off it and take the nerves away from it.
England might not expect, but England hopes finally the long wait might be over. Dan Rivers, ITV News.
In other news, the government is considering exempting double-jabbed NHS staff from self-isolating as staff shortages begin to bite. Another plan said to be on the table is the so-called COVID passport, requiring proof of vaccination for anyone wanting to enter a pub or restaurant. Our political correspondent Daniel Hewitt has more.
As NHS hospitals brace for the lifting of COVID restrictions and with it COVID patients, the big worry is having enough staff to treat them. As infection rates continue to rise, so too are the number of medics being forced to self-isolate by test and trace. The government is being asked to consider making them exempt to avoid a widespread staffing crisis ahead of July the 19th's unlocking.
It's very striking how many trusts are saying at the moment that they are really struggling. Just at the point when you need large numbers of staff, we're finding that significant numbers are self-isolating. So it is a real problem.
From August the 16th, people who are fully vaccinated in England will no longer be required to self-isolate if traced as a COVID contact. Ministers are looking at bringing that forward for double-jabbed NHS staff, with some trusts warning up to 20% of their workforce could be forced to stay at home if the rules aren't changed sooner.
Where I work in intensive care, we've had difficulty staffing beds, and that's made it very difficult. As the situation gets worse, yes, we could find more significant problems, and it's already very hard to keep the hospital staffed.
And with self-isolation rules look set to change, so too could the policy on so-called COVID passports. To limit a surge in COVID cases later this autumn, the government isn't ruling out plans to make people prove they are double jabbed before entering hospitality venues. But this restaurant owner fears it'll be another job for her struggling staff to take on.
Kind of be like a school teacher and ask someone to kind of do something that they may not necessarily believe in and put the onus on the team. It takes extra time, it's extra effort, puts people in an uncomfortable position sometimes.
But it's hoped COVID certificates could encourage people to get the jab. In 9 days' time, with the legal limits on our lives all but gone, the vaccine will be all the protection we have. Daniel Hewitt, ITV News.
A global minimum tax on big corporations is another step closer tonight. Meeting in Venice, the Chancellor Rishi Sunak and other G20 finance ministers pledged their support to the plan, now agreed by 132 countries. It's intended to stop big companies from shifting profits across borders to avoid tax. And here at Wimbledon, 25-year-old Ashley Barty has become the first Australian woman to win the women's singles title in more than 40 years. She beat Karolina Pliskova from the Czech Republic to win her second Grand Slam title. And finally, July the 30th, 1966, a date written in the hearts of England fans and a particularly special memory for those who were there at Wembley to see that last triumph. Now, with just hours to go before England try to write a new date into history, some of those fans have told Chloe Keedy what it was like to taste victory 55 years ago.
It was just unbelievable. The fact that England won was magnificent. But the atmosphere created by the crowd for the players, it must have been absolutely amazing.
Arthur will be back at Wembley tomorrow. The last time he saw England play in the final of a major tournament, he was only 19. He still has his programme and the stub of his ticket, which he bought for the princely sum of £3.15.
What are your real standout memories from that day?
The national anthem, the fact that Bobby Moore was able to pick the cup up directly from the Queen.
There he is, Geoff Hurst.
It was Hurst who scored a hat-trick that day, although his second goal, scored in extra time, has caused controversy ever since.
We could see that it was over the line. It was definitely a goal.
You can clear that one up for us.
I won't have anybody say it wasn't a goal, even after 55 years.
When he scored the fourth goal, I was behind that goal when he scored the fourth goal, and I mean, everybody just erupted because obviously last minute 4-2 we'd won.
Roger Homer is hoping to see that moment recreated when he goes to Wembley tomorrow with his grandson.
One of my biggest memories was coming out of the ground, the whole crowd coming out of the ground singing E-I-A-D-O, we've won the cup.
Saturday the 30th.
Caroline Cooper was 24 when she went to the final and is the first to admit that her diary entry from that day doesn't quite do it justice.
Straight home afterwards at 7, washed hair, Chinese meal in Soho. People celebrating football victory, 2 exclamation marks.
Working as a part-time tour guide, she went to Wembley that day with a group of Argentinian football fans.
I mean, it was my first ever football match, so by 90 minutes I'd sort of got the hang of what was going on.
So was it nail-biting?
Absolutely nail-biting.
Believe it or not, Caroline says she'd like another nail-biter tomorrow. And, of course, another win. Chloe Keedy, ITV News.
Wonderful memories ahead of tomorrow. And that's it. The weather forecast is coming up for you next. But from all of us here on the Weekend News team, thanks for watching. Good night.